All right, we're good to go. Okay, so we have Kim Kiyosaki. Kim Kiyosaki is a very successful real estate investor, and probably also less known is being the other half of the Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That's kind of become this almost like larger than life type of book and story and message, and probably a little bit less known because Robert is so out enjoying the battles out there, especially on Twitter, and I don't see you out battling quite as much.
That's true. I'm actually I'm the business. I'm running the business. We have him as the spokesperson, and he does his job very, very well. And he loves
awesome.
He loves to stir things up.
That is very true. I just interviewed him last week. I think I could have made a 10-minute video on all of his cuss words in one 10-minute sequence. Gotta love Robert. So what's your take on everything going on right now in the world and how you see it all?
Yeah. The whole scenario of this virus, it just, to me, something's not adding up. It does not warrant shutting down the entire world economy. I mean, if you look at the numbers, the common flu, the number I saw the other day, the common flu was on average per year, you have 626,000 deaths from the common flu, yet the coronavirus right now is just 120,000. We didn't shut down the economy for the common flu, so why are we shutting it down for this? I don't understand it. I think the best thing, Jake, that could come out of this whole thing is for the truth to come out. The truth about the virus, the truth about why we shut down the world economy, the truth about vaccines, about political agendas, about commercial agendas. If that truth could come out, that could be a huge game changer in a really positive way. Don't know if it'll ever happen, but I would love to have that intention put out there.
Yep. Robert's doing his job definitely on Twitter doing that. We'll see if he gets his account banned here pretty soon.
There's so many conspiracy theories, and I can't tell what's real news and what's fake news. It's all just one big blur. And so I know the one thing that has got to happen and has got to happen soon is people have got to start getting back to work. And I know President Trump is on that. I know our Governor, Doug Ducey, is on that because this is a huge wake-up call for a lot of people who right now can't pay their bills. And so we've got to get people back to work.
So that's kind of what I say. I say, look, if we even get away from the conversation around the virus and we look purely at the results, the ramifications, the things rolling out, and as you said, that's the thing that really needs to be addressed and looked at. How do you see this whole situation playing out economically? As you said, most people can't pay. Most people don't even have a couple $100, let alone can they pay their mortgage if they're not getting money in. And then you talk about all the money they're printing, where interest rates are at, and you look at the Federal Reserve policies. If they aren't buying everything up, they're at least giving money at 0% rate to their proxies to buy up the stocks that are outside of their jurisdiction in the Federal Reserve Act. How do you see all that playing out? And what do you think about it?
Well, for one thing, a story I just talked to mine, and he was like at the top of his game, entrepreneur, doing real well, in high demand, and he was traveling, teaching, training people, and today he can't pay my bills. So I think this is a huge wake-up call for a lot of people because all of a sudden they thought they had a safe, secure job, and now they don't, and they don't have savings. So I don't see a real, in term, it's gonna be really, really tough for a lot of people. My concern is if we don't get people back to work, there'll be blood in the streets, because if people can't put food on their table and feed their kids, they're gonna get desperate. And there's a lot of emotion out there driving things. So if we could start at least, it doesn't have to be everybody back to work, but at least making some inroads to get, I was tested for the antibodies, right? And so that was a proposal of Trump's. If you tested positive for an antibody, meaning you came into contact with it, pretty much good to go back to work. And I tested positive. we could get some of those people back to work slowly and get the mindset of the angst and all this panic, up listening to the freaking media, mainstream, they're terrifying people. And I think it's criminal what they're doing out there right now. They've put so much fear into people, and fear makes people obey. Fear people obey. They're so afraid that they're going to do that. My concern is government is going to take, political people are going to take liberties, and they're going to take away our liberties in the form of, oh my God, well, if you go outside or if you get on a plane, you know, you're going to kill people. So a bigger concern is, what is the political agenda of a lot of people, not just politicians, but a lot of people? What is their real agenda? And I think we're going to have to come to a point where they're going to have to pay attention, not blindly be followed like sheep and just be told what to do, but they're going to have to take a stand if things go too far. And I'll take a stand. There's a lot of free speech censored. There's a lot of things, you know, I don't agree with what a lot of people are saying, but I will fight for their right to say it, no matter what it is. So there's a lot going on. I could start getting people back to work, show a little positive movement. I think that would go far.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, and it's a lot of people, that's the argument I make. And a lot of people, they're like, no, we can't, you know, we're all going to die if we do. And so it's a odd position to be in, but I was curious your take, and I agree with you. My next question out of it, going back to the results of this. So, I was lucky enough, my journey really began, I was 19 years old. I was a freshman in college in economics class. And I asked my teacher if we could audit the Federal Reserve and why we can't, and all these things. And he told me to shut up. And so I actually dropped out of college.
You were following Ron Paul at that time?
Yeah, it was around that time frame, right? Or maybe I was following you. And so he told me to shut up. And I decided to drop out of college. I went and I backpacked around the world. I self-published a book. I sold it out of the trunk of my car, sold 20,000 copies, was able to get a deal with Penguin Random House. And, you know, over the course of time, being in a similar type of education-based business as yourself, I was able to, in my 20s, create a good amount of success. And I look around at a lot of my peers that me and them are going to be inheriting the world. And I look around at so many of them that not only do they not have any money whatsoever, but they're beholden to a extremely low paying job that doesn't even afford them the ability to pay for not a home to buy, I rent instead of buy, but just even a nice place to rent. And if they are, 50 to 60% of their money is going to rent right out the door. And this is why I wanted to talk to you. And, you know, people don't know you as much as Robert, but like you said, you're behind the scenes running the business, and you've built an incredible investment career. And, you know, my wife is pregnant right now. And like, to me, you're like that superhero that like, I'll be giving my daughter your books and teaching her all this. And long story, I wanted to know, what are these things that we need to be teaching? I look at people and they're stuck on the other side of the cash flow quadrant, and that's what's really killing them. And how do we teach people, how can you explain how to get on the other side of the cash flow quadrant and put yourself in a better financial position? Because even if they're able to smooth things over, it's clear that there's going to be a lot of volatility in our economy over the next 20 to 30 years. How do we prepare ourselves better financially, et cetera?
It's a great question, Jake, because I think now people have finally, at least some people have woken up to the fact that, oh my God, I'm not prepared. Of course, none of us expected anything like this. My concern is that so many people are waiting for that government check. You know, I got to get that government check and that's going to save me. Well, if your mind is the government's going to take care of me, that's not going to make you a stronger, better person. It's going to actually weaken you, because anytime you start taking money from the government, you give up something in return. So you've got to get out of that mindset of depending upon somebody else to take care of you and depend upon yourself. I say to women all the time, stop the idea that a man is going to take care of you, a husband's going to take care of you, your family's going to take care of you. Take care of yourself. And I think right now, if you look at what's going on, there actually is an opportunity. And I mean that flippantly. There's opportunity out there right now. And I think for a lot of people, they've woken up to the fact that my job is not a safe and secure future. Job security is now out the window. It does not exist. But you can be your own entrepreneur. You can start your own business, and you don't have to start a big business. It can just be, I saw a young woman just the other day, because in Arizona, we can still play golf. We can still go out on the golf course. And I was playing golf with my girlfriend. And here's this young woman on the side of one of the tee boxes, and she's selling golf balls. She's doing something. She's doing something different. And I think I don't know the simple solution on how to get out of that mindset of an employee and working for the paycheck, except this crisis might shake a few people up to go, oh my God, there is no job security. So in terms of, I would look at what could I do? What could I start today? What could I, in my garage, Robert and I, we started our businesses at the dining room table. It's not rocket science, but there is opportunity. Look at the delivery opportunities right now. I mean, you could start your own, some type of delivery company right now and be out there doing all sorts of things and making money for yourself. You've got to think about, how can I make money for myself? Not waiting for the government $1,200 paycheck that's going to, and what are you going to do with that when you get it? You're just going to probably blow it, right? What could you do with that money that you're getting, and be a little more smart with what you're buying and what you're spending it on versus just blowing it on, comfort things. So I'm all for, I think the road to the future is entrepreneurship, and people have got to charge lives and stop putting it into somebody else's, especially the government.
Amen. I was just talking to Jack Canfield, the Chicken Soup for the Soul creator, and he was saying something similar to you. And he said that just before he and I had gotten on our call, he said he had just heard a story about one of his clients, or a friend of a client, that had a gym. And so obviously he got screwed, and it was like a personal training gym. People came. So he thought of a brilliant idea. Instead, what he started doing is all of his clients, they started renting the equipment from him. So he would come and he would put a mask and gloves on, stay 6 feet away, set the equipment up, and they could pay additionally if they wanted him to stay 6 to 8 feet away and coach them. If not, he'll come back in 90 minutes to 2 hours. And he was basically doing gym equipment delivery and at distance consulting. And I was like, man, that's a perfect example of what you're discussing there. There is opportunity still.
Yeah, I know of a store. It's a small little market, but they only specialize in like fish and lamb is their thing. So they were being told they were going to have to shut down. So what they did is they brought in eggs, and they brought in bread, and they brought in milk, and they brought in pasta, and they started. So now they're a grocery store. So they were able to stay open. And that's exactly what you're saying. That's the kind of thinking, Jake, that people need to do. They need to start thinking outside the box and not say, I can't do it. Ask, of course, the classic rich dad, poor dad line is, don't say I can't do it. Ask, how can you do it? Because when you ask, how can you do it, then your mind opens up the possibilities.
Amen. So, okay. So
I'll tell you one other quick story in our company. So, what I'm really happy about is at the Rich Dad Company, we have a board game called Cash Flow that teaches you about money, teaches you about investing. Well, our sales have been through the roof because people are home, and I'm so happy that they're actually taking the time to learn about money, learn about investing, getting some financial education. But what we didn't anticipate is we sold out like 2.5 months early. We sold so many games, and we're like, so we're back in production right now. But then we're talking, and we're like, we must have games at the office. I mean, our own storage unit must have games. And we went in there and we're like, yeah, there's 60 games here. And so we built this funnel, and next thing you know, we go out and we say, okay, we got 60 games, and within 24 hours, they're gone. So the good news is some people are using this time to get financially educated and learn something new. And I think that is one of the biggest opportunities people have today is have all this time and you're at home. What are you doing in that time? Are you growing? Are you getting better? Are you taking on, new possibilities, starting a business, buying gold and silver, whatever it is? You make the best use of this time, because you could come out of this stronger, better, smarter, or you could come out of this weaker and worse.
So one good idea then is for me to sell my cash flow game on the black market for
people are.
So
people are.
So let me ask you, what do you think when my baby's is a girl, so I'll have a daughter this summer, and it makes me think even more about what I want to teach my kids. I don't know if I'll have more than one or just one, but once they're older, especially about money, and which obviously is such an integral part of everything in life. And because you don't have it, you can't pay for good health insurance. It's set up into everything, right? Yeah. What would you be teaching if you had a whether it was a boy or a girl, and they were 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 years old, and they're seeing this type of decay in the economy? And the bizarre thing is that a weird divorce between the stock market and the economy are now two distinctly different things. And what would you be teaching? So like, what are the rules of money and success or business? Like, where would you start? What would you teach someone right now?
I think that's a good point. And to your earlier point, Rich Dad, about money, people say, oh, I'd rather be happy than be rich. I'm like, well, why in the world would you not be both? But Rich Dad always said, he said, money may not be the most important thing in the world, but it affects everything that is important. Like that, it affects your healthcare, it affects your level of education, it affects the food you put on your table, it affects your day-to-day life. So why would you not learn about it? And I would just start, Robert and I do not have kids purely by choice. We have a lot of friends that do. And what they're doing with their children is, even though, the kids are going to school, they're not homeschooling them necessarily, but the kids are going to school. But then when they come home, they take the time to teach them about money. They take the time to talk to them. Most of them are entrepreneurs. They involve the kids in the business. They involve the kids in the financials. So, of course, Rich Dad, of course, I recommend all of our products, and we have kids products. We have Cash Flow for Kids. We have a graphic novel called How to Get Out of the Rat Race for kids. So, but I would just start teaching, kids are so interested in money so early. And just the fact of giving a child to last this long, and how are you going to spend it, and just opening up the discussion. I think one of the things that's really important is to teach kids the language of money, because there's so much jargon out there that, people make themselves look smart by using all this jargon. And when you call them on it, a lot of people don't even know the definitions of the words they're using. So we created a game because a game is fun and it's entertaining, and it kind of tricks people into learning because they're having so much fun. They don't realize they're actually learning something. So we wanted to make it fun and entertaining. And we also wanted to make it so that Robert and I were not dependent on going all over the world teaching this. Instead, people could teach each other. And just to back up just a bit, the reason we created the game, and I'm not trying to sell the game, it's a great teaching tool, is because in 1994, Robert was financially free. Everybody came to us and said, oh, you must have $1 million set aside to become financially free that you can live off of. And I've said, no, we're not. We don't have millions of dollars. What we have, very simply, is we have $10,000 a month coming in every month, mostly from our rental properties. But we only have $3,000 in living expenses. This was back in 94. And so at that point, we had more money coming in without working than was going out in living expenses. And that's our definition of financially free. So everybody kept asking us how we did it. So we thought, well, let's put something fun together so people can teach one another and have a good time learning.
So how would you advise someone to start moving in that direction, right? There's a lot of people that even they don't even have a business. Maybe now they're starting to think about it, or maybe there's some people that are doing well, but they want to get to the next level. What are you looking at in the economy? And do you think that real estate and is the safest place, or acquiring businesses, or how does someone start moving more in that direction here as the tides are shifting?
Well, and we don't know how this is all going to play out by any means, but one thing anybody could do today, and this is how I started many, many years ago, go out and buy a 1-ounce silver coin. 1-ounce silver coin today is probably going to cost you about 16, 17 US dollars. But what that does is now you've parted with money. You always have to have some money in the game. You got to get out of the theory and actually put some money down. So I'm talking just about 16, 17 dollars. But now you have this 1-ounce coin, and all of a sudden it's gonna spark your interest. You're gonna want to learn more. And so you can go online and look at the price every day of silver. Why is it up? Why is it down? You'll start getting engaged in articles about silver and gold and precious metal, how that all works. That's one thing somebody could do today. Or you could start some type of a simple business on writing we all have some, a friend of ours office, he's an expert on mechanics. He loves work cars. And so you can put a little book together on how to change a spark plug. I mean, whatever it is, and just put it out there. You're doing so much great work, Jake, with your podcasts and all. People could start a podcast. Just start doing something. But if you want to learn about money, I would say you got to put some money down. Real estate, to be honest, there's going to be a huge opportunity in real if you know what you're looking for, because a lot of people are turning in the keys right now. They're just turning in the keys and walking away. And this is what happened in 2008. In 2008, when they had the subprime crisis, a lot of people walked away from their properties, which was a buying opportunity for a lot of other people. And I'm not saying, you want to prey on the misfortune of other people. If you do know what you're doing, you also help people out who can't keep paying their bills and paying their mortgages. So I guess right now you got to look at there's different asset classes. There's business, there's real estate, paper, stocks, funds, mutual funds. There's precious metals, commodities, oil, gas. Understand which area is most of interest to you. What are you interested in? Because if you're not interested in it, you're not going to take the time to learn it and study it. But when you find something that really interests you, then move forward with it, and move forward with the fact of, I don't want to be in this situation of depending on my boss who now just fired me, or depending on the government who may or may not give me that. We don't know yet. I want to be in control of my life. And I think coming from that point of view, I love my freedom, and I love to be in control. That's why in the stock market, Robert and I have very little in the stock market, because we have over what happens with that company and what happens with that stock. With our real estate, we control the income, we control the expenses, we control the debt. We can make things happen. So I think if you can get into the mindset of more of an entrepreneurial mindset, which is real important, and there's so many books out there about that. But you got to start thinking differently, because it is changing, and we don't know what's going to happen with business. I'm the optimist. And I'm like, okay, we will slowly get back to work. We'll slowly start opening our doors again. People will start getting more confident, but this really could be a turning point for a lot of people to do something different with their life. And if this isn't, what is?
Yeah, if this isn't what is definitely people are running out of worst case scenarios, in that there's really not, at this point, you're not going to lose anything by starting a no or low cost business.
No, exactly. And it can be no cost. People think you have to have money to make money. It doesn't. Robert and I did not have, when I was buying our first property, probably the first property, have any money. And actually that was a great thing because it forced us to get really, really, really creative on how to find the money. And in our businesses, we started our businesses with no money. And it forces you to figure out how to make money. It forces you how to keep your doors open. I'll tell you one quick story. Years and years ago, when Robert and I were in California, we were just starting our business. We had no income. We had no job. And it was 1988, I believe. And we were in La Jolla, California, which is very expensive. And we decided we had to get an apartment. We were tired of living in our friend's basement. We were tired of living in this beat up old car. And so we talked to this agent. I don't know how we did it, but we talked this agent into renting us a $1,200 a month apartment right in the heart of the village of La Jolla, which is beautiful. And because we had to pay the rent, we had to scramble like crazy to make money in our business, if nothing else, just to pay the rent. So sometimes it's good to put yourself, and a lot of people have involuntarily put themselves in the situation where they've got to do something to make money, to put food on the table. So sometimes when you put yourself in a dire situation, how do you react? Do you come out like, one of the keys to success is resiliency. How well you come back from a setback. A lot of people have a major setback right now. How are you going to respond? Are you going to come out stronger and better and smarter? Or are you going to go, oh, I'm going to have the government has to take care of me. Oh, I'm going to go on Social Security. Oh, I'll do whatever they say just so I can have some money. That's slavery. That's slavery.
Amazing. That's well said. So let me ask you so first of all, before I ask you what I want to ask you next, I want to hammer down again on what you just said there. More than ever, you don't need money to make money. I have a relatively successful business doing a multiple million a year, and we have under $10,000 in expenses, actually. And it didn't cost anything. And it doesn't cost money for that guy to decide to start taking his gym equipment and maybe a couple bucks for gas to go drop it off. Yeah. So it doesn't take money to make money, at least to start getting you into the new quadrant and to start bringing more money into your life. So I wanted to ask you, one of my favorite videos of yours is on the internet, and it's about taxes. And so I never really thought about it, and probably because I didn't have enough money where I noticed it. And this last year, I paid more in taxes than I made 24 months ago. And I realized I'm the one getting screwed at my income level. It's the really rich people and the really poor people that don't pay anything, or they pay very little. And it's people at my level, and then people down to, the average American income level. The lower middle class to the upper middle class is paying it all. And I was hoping you could talk a little bit about taxes, because it's our largest expense, and it's something especially that you really see how big of a deal it is when someone doesn't have the extra money for the rent, and now they've got all these taxes they got to pay. And I was hoping you could teach us a little bit about taxes and all that.
Of course, no expert on tax. I have a fantastic tax strategist that we work with, Tom Wheelwright. But what he has taught me, and I just want to make one other point, because you said earlier, you don't need money to make money. And I hear so many people say, I don't have money, so I can't do anything. Don't ever let the idea or the excuse that I don't have money stop you from doing something. I mean, that's the biggest disservice you can do yourself. But the thing about taxes,
before you go into it, the reason I ask is I feel like an idiot, because I just wrote this. I'm in 24 months more than I made, and I'm writing this and so much taxes, and I'm like, wow, I'm stupid. Now I finally realize the things that you guys say in Rich Dad, and that all these things that everybody says about taxes, and it didn't hit me until I finally was like, wow, I need to be way smarter. And I was just like hoping, because I was hoping you could talk about it.
Yeah. Well, the employees, and I love to see, I don't love to see it because it's the same thing every time. When somebody starts a job for the first time and they get their paycheck and they're like, what's this money that goes out? How come I didn't get my full money? And all this money is going out to taxes, right? So they pay a lot in taxes. The self-employed person probably gets hit the hardest. The ones with the small business, and they're the more the professionals, the doctors, the lawyers, the consultants, the shop owners. They get hit the hardest. And then you have the business owners. They have tax advantage, as do investors have tax advantages. So very simple. If taxes are, people say, they don't want to pay taxes. I don't want to pay taxes. But the tax laws are written to give you incentives to do things that the government doesn't want to do. So for example, the government doesn't want to provide a lot of housing. So by getting into real estate and being a landlord and having tenants, you're doing the job that the government doesn't want to do. So the government gives you incentives, meaning tax breaks, to provide that. The government doesn't want to, be in the energy business. So if you invest in oil and gas, in the wells and things, not the stock so much, but in actual production, the government gives you a tax incentive to do that. So it's not that, and just by starting a small business, you already immediately get tax breaks because you're providing a service that the government isn't necessarily going to be involved in. So by starting a small business, a part-time business, if you just did that, start a part-time business, you will get tax breaks for doing that. If you buy real estate, you'll get tax breaks for doing that. So one of the reasons Robert and I pay so little in taxes is we're doing things that the government doesn't want to do, and we're providing services, we're providing housing, we're providing energy, and that kind of relieves the government from having to do that. Now, unless things change and the government wants to do everything, that's another world. But the more that you take charge of your money and charge of your life and invest and start businesses, that will give you major tax breaks and major tax incentives.
So I guess now I'm look back and I go, okay, if I was actually smarter, what I would have done is before the end of the year, I would have taken all the money that I was going to pay in taxes, and maybe instead of if I knew more about real estate, for instance, I could have taken the profits in November, for instance, and then I went out and bought a cash flow rental unit or something. Is that example of when you're getting to the bigger levels of, is that what I would do if I was trying to really get to the next level of passive income, but also lowering my tax burden and making my money work even more for me?
Yeah, that's a really good example, Jay, because yes, you can take the money, because and most people don't even pay attention to what their taxes are until it's too late. So that's why tax preparing is really, really important to see where you're going to go. But yeah, if all of a sudden you're facing a big tax bill coming up in 6 months' time, yes, go out there and buy a property, buy a single family rental house, buy a duplex, because and there's our dear friend and our investing partner, Ken McElroy. He's also a Rich Dad advisor. He has the ABC estate and the ABCs of property management. 2 books alone, that's how Robert and I think. And that's how we started investing. We hooked up with Kenny because we had the philosophy, which is all about cash flow. So to give you an example, I have 2 women that I know, and their parents passed away. And they had a real estate investment that was giving them great cash flow every month. So the 2 girls, being the daughters who knew nothing about money, first thing they wanted to do was sell it. And I'm like, whoa. You have no money and you're going to sell it, and then you're going to spend it all and be left with nothing, or you can keep that property and let it cash flow, and every month you're going to get a nice little check. And so I think I've talked him into that, but I'm not sure. But so many people want to, if they inherit something like that, they want to sell the property and spend the money. And that goes back to the mindset of thinking about, if you have a poor mentality, it's get the money, make the money, spend the money, make the money, spend the money. But if you can change your focus to how do I have my money make money for me? And for that, it's about acquiring assets such as real estate. But anybody today, and there's ways to do this. As I said, when I started, I didn't have any money to buy these properties. I had to get very, very creative. But if you go out there and start looking, and I'm telling you, there will be a lot of opportunity coming up right now because people are not able to make their mortgages. And I know they've kind of trying to put things on hold with that, which I think is a good idea. I really do think for the next few months, they should just put a pause on all mortgages and all rents and let people, kind of retool. But there are going to be opportunities, and real estate is a great way to not pay taxes, to basically get incentives so you do not have to pay taxes. What would you rather do? Pay taxes to the government or own a rental piece of real estate? That rental piece of real estate will stay with you as long as you want. And I'll tell you, every single investor, real estate investor I've talked to, myself, Ken McElroy, everybody, we wish we had kept every single property we've ever owned, but we didn't. But we're doing okay. But again, right now, people are like, "Oh, I'm not going to buy rental property because the tenants they can't pay the rent." True. But there's no reason why you can't start looking now. Go out there, start looking now. Go drive around the street. Start making phone calls. Just start learning. And the other thing too, Jake, is start that part-time business. That part-time business can give you tax incentives as well. And it can be as simple as, I have a friend that I know that she loved designer handbags. And her friends would borrow her designer handbag out on a fancy occasion. And she had this bright idea. What if I just started renting out my designer handbags? And she did online. And look at today, everybody's out everything, right? What do you have maybe that you could rent out, including, like you said, the gym equipment? What do you have that you could rent out that other people need and want? It might be right in front of your eyes and you're just not seeing it.
That's very true. I love that handbag one. It seems like we're going to so much more of a rental culture outside of even where we live. It seems like even phones now, we rent these now. We pay a monthly payment on them and then we give them back at the end.
Right.
So talking about real estate, the way you did it when you started is you bought your first single family home in Portland, Oregon, I believe. And so looking now at everything you've learned and all the success you've created, and then also all the intelligence you've gained and being able to decipher the economy and the markets, do you think that some people say, like Grant Cardone says, you should buy 32 units to start, right? And then there's people like Bigger Pockets that say start with a single family. Do you think, if you were doing it over again, would you buy one door or would you only get into multifamily? And how do you look at all of that now?
From the start, I've always said it, and I say it to this day, is start with one. Just start small, because you're going to be on a learning curve and you're going to make mistakes. And mistakes are a good thing. You got to reprogram the idea of mistakes as well. Mistakes are a good thing. When you make a mistake, go, oh my gosh, a mistake just shows you something you did not know. That's it. That's all it does. And so you go, okay, mistake. Now I'm going to learn. But if you're going to start out in business, small. I started with a little 2-bedroom, 1-bath, single family house. It was 89 and it was $45,000. And I needed a $5,000 down payment, which we did not have. But I made a lot of mistakes on that property. And actually that property made $25 a month positive cash flow. That was it. But that's how I started. And the fundamentals of that little 2-bedroom, 1-bath house, the same fundamentals we use today buying, multiple large apartment buildings. But you start small because you're going to make mistakes. You want to make mistakes with small amounts of money and then grow it. I would do one, then maybe another one, maybe then a duplex. I went from like 4 single families, then I did a 6-plex. But yeah, start small, because you want to have wins, but just know in the process you're learning. Anytime you're learning something new, you're going to make mistakes. It's part of the game. And you just have to accept you're going to make mistakes. And that's how we learn and that's how we grow. But if I went out the first deal and I did a 100-unit apartment building, I probably would have never touched real estate again because it would have wiped me out. I would have made so many mistakes with a lot of money, and it probably would have scared me to death to do anything further. So I'll give you one other example. Is one way that Robert and I learn is there's a thing called tax lien certificates. Tax lien certificates are basically if you don't pay your property taxes, there's a lien put on your property, and then somebody else can come and pay the taxes for you, and then you're going to have to pay them money every month to cover that. Worst case scenario is if they don't pay, you actually could end up with a house just by paying the property taxes. But the reason I'm telling you this is not so much for the product itself, but the way that Robert and I learned. So we this book years and years and years on tax lien certificates, and we studied the book, and it said you got to go to the county seat, so to Southern Arizona, and we found the exact person they're talking about in the book who knows all the properties in these little towns. And we went out and we're going to spend $1,000, and we acquired like 4 different properties on paying for the tax lien, paying the property taxes of people that didn't pay. And we got 16% on our money. And eventually they did pay. And there was one property that we were going to buy because we knew that we could get the property, but it was a friend of ours and we couldn't do that. We couldn't ethically, morally do that.
Interesting.
But so learn it and then go put some money down, and that's going to accelerate your learning even more.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many levels to it. And it's someone like you is so important because we're not taught any of this at all. And that's why and as you know, you're saying our economies and our future is changing so much. And now I feel like it's less of a choice. Do you want to be an entrepreneur and investor? Nah, not really. We don't have that choice anymore. It's like you need to do it at this point for your own survival.
Yeah, you've got to for your own survival. Absolutely. Absolutely. And also with real estate and with business, I also say stay close to home. You don't have to go 1,000 miles away to find a property. They're there in your backyard. And if you're in a big, expensive city like New York or San Francisco, you might have to go a little outside, but you don't have to go far. There's properties right there. People sometimes will say, oh, I'm going to go, invest in Hungary. I'm like, why would you go to Hungary when you got good deals right here? So you don't have to go far. And it's the same in business. You don't have to take on something that you know nothing about. Stay with things that you know about. There's a lot of the most successful stories. A lot of them come from mothers who are trying to find a better way to take care of the kids. There was one woman that was, what was her product? It was a top. Oh, it was a top to go on a bottle for a baby, like a water bottle. And so she designed this top, and her friends wanted it. Next thing you know, she's got a business. So oftentimes the business comes out of the necessity to make something better in your own life. So again, you don't have to go so far outside. It can be something that's right in your own backyard. That's
genius.
Like
it's
designer
Say that again, please.
Designer handbags.
Yeah. It's weird how so many of those opportunities they hit us in the face, and it's almost like for so long, a lot of people have known the entrepreneurial journey they really need to take, but they keep denying it and they keep denying it. And now we've just been hit by a ton of bricks, and it's like, are you ready now?
Yeah. You know what I would say to somebody who lost their job is like, right now, today, just figure out you could make some money. Just something. Figure out something you could do today to make some money. Don't even think about long-term, don't even think about creating a business, but what could you do today to make some money that's legal, ethical, and moral?
And I think that it's weird because it's so important. Just like pull out a pen and pad and make a list of 10 potential ways you could make money go back through it, maybe 7 of them end up being dumb, but then you figure out that one right there is one you could start, because it seems like the problem is we overcomplicate it because we don't know anything about business and we aren't taught it. So then we think like, well, I need a business plan and what will happen in 3 years? And then nothing happens.
Yes. Yeah, that's a great point, because so many people, how many people do you know, Jake, who have spent years putting together this business plan, and it has to be perfect. To be perfect is because they never ever want to really start a business. They're so paralyzed. It's analysis paralysis, and they spend all this time with their plan. I don't think you can even create a plan past 6 months today, because who knows what the environment's going to look like. So just get out there and do something. Do something. There was a few years ago, there was a woman that in our neighborhood, and it was a young woman, so she would leave flyers. You could do this today because you can do your social distancing. She'd leave a flyer and say, if you have shoes that you would like to have shined, leave them at your front door and I'll pick them up and I'll deliver them tomorrow morning. Simple stuff, not science, not technical things. You don't have to be a tech whiz today. It doesn't have to be some grandiose idea. It just has to be something simple that you could do today to put money in your pocket.
Yeah, you don't even need to be very smart today, because there's so many crutches that are taken out by us, by softwares and just like little tools that we can use that handle a lot of the business aspect. There's so many things now with the phone, with the internet, with YouTube. There's just so many. We really, we can be dumber than ever before, but actually have more financial freedom than ever before.
Absolutely. I wish I had invested in Zoom.
Yeah, for real. So
it's true that there's so much more opportunity because of the internet, and you can reach the world now. When Robert and I started, when we came out with Rich Dad Poor Dad, we knew we wanted the database. We wanted to find out who was buying our books, and we couldn't get that information from the bookstores. So what we did is, and this is a long time ago, this is 1997, Robert made a cassette tape. And at the back of the book, it said, if you send in $5 for postage and handling, we will send you this free cassette tape. And it was all about money and finance and investing. And that's how we started building our database, is we would get these names of people. And every once in a while, still today, there'll be an old book circulating and somebody will send in their $5 and want their free cassette tape. But but now it's so much easier to get names and build your database than it was back then. So there's a lot more you can do.
Yeah, you guys are like geniuses. Maybe you guys started the whole not mail in necessarily, but the whole get this free thing type of setup. Like, that's amazing that you guys did that long ago. That's so cool. So what would you say in conclusion, right? And first, let me summarize what I hear from you and what I feel is so important for people to hear is, number one, recognize that the government, your boss, and nobody can or will take care of you. And if you want freedom, if you want to have less stress in your life, and you want more independence, it's worth considering not only, number one, taking responsibility, but number two, considering maybe pulling out a pen and pad, and instead of overcomplicating a business, if you aren't in one, just pulling out and write out 10 ideas to make more money and see which ones you can start with. And instead of overcomplicating, maybe just say, my first goal is to make an extra $500 a month or an extra $1,000 a month, and just start really small like that. And if you can just begin there without overcomplicating everything, without trying to overstudy, without trying to look too far in the future, one, you're going to learn a whole bunch along the way. Two, that one idea may not last 12 months, but it may lead you to the next idea. And now the new entrepreneurial understanding that aids you in starting the real business that you do. And it's important right now for everybody to consider getting into an entrepreneurial framework, and you can simply start it by pulling out a pen and pad and writing down ideas. Now, this brings you into, I think, like the next phase that like the next level. And that's like all about taxes and investment and things like I didn't really realize it, like I said, until it was too late in the year. And then I realized my tax bill now had a lot more zeros than the year before. And I was like, wow, I'm stupid. And so it pushing yourself into the entrepreneurial place also helps you understand the next phase of taxes and whatnot. One, do you think that's an accurate summarization? And two, is there anything I missed in conclusion that'd be a valuable takeaway for someone?
No, you didn't miss anything. And you're exactly right. That's how we grow. You're out there, you're doing it every day. You're doing it in the world of entrepreneurship. I say entrepreneurship is the fast track to personal development, because every day something comes up and it's right in your face, and you deal with it. Problems come up and you got to deal with it, to overcome them. And we have a team now, a very good team of experts around us, but we didn't always have that team. At the beginning, all we had was a bookkeeper, and you should have a bookkeeper. No matter how small your business is, you should have somebody outside of yourself and your spouse who is at least once a month, maybe just looking at your numbers, because it's very easy to lie to yourself about how much you have coming in and how much you have going out. But the other point I wanted to make is, yes, nobody's going to take care of your money like you are. Nobody's going to take care of you and give you the job you want and the money you want. And the government's not going to take care of you. But there's one other thing in talking about this entrepreneurial mind book called The Cash Flow, and talks about the different minds. So, for example, this could be something really fun for people to do today, because so many people are at home. Right before I came on here, Jake, my company, there's 10 of us right now. We're all on a Zoom call, and we have problems. And it's like, okay, here's the problem. How can we address it? And it's like, it's fun and it's creative. And you go, what about this? What about this? And there's no such thing as a stupid idea. What about this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And 9 out of 10 times within 10, 15 minutes, we've solved it because of the team. So why not, if you're thinking about starting a business, and let's say the goal is $200 a month, get on a call with 2 or 3 of your friends, do it over a glass of wine if you want, and say, hey, let's talk about what we could do, not necessarily together, but maybe together, or let's talk about what different things we could each do to make money for ourselves, and maybe start a part-time business and make it it's a fun thing. Entrepreneurship is a lot of fun. And one thing you do have to have is you do have to persevere, and you do have to be resilient. And I think you also have to be optimistic. Somebody said the keys to longevity, they did the study of these centenarians, people that lived over 100 years, and they wanted to find the common denominators, and they found 3. And first thing is the purpose. So if looking at starting, a part-time, or just looking to make some extra money coming in, what would be the purpose for it? Why do you want to do that? Really, not just to make money, but why else do you really want to do that? What's the sense of purpose for you? Is it, maybe to make sure that your family is safe and secure? What is that purpose? Number 2 is they're optimistic. They always have a sense of optimism. But number 3, the key was resiliency, how well you come back from a setback. And so I'll say it again, a lot of us are facing a setback right now, and we can come out of this, use this time to learn, to find new ideas, to maybe start a part-time business, to start looking at different investments, to go out there and buy that 1-ounce silver coin. You can do that, or you can wait for the government to send you your check. And just know, if that's your plan, if your plan is to get a government check, then there's going to be a price to pay. And that price to pay is typically your spirit and your soul, because you quit. When you start depending on the government to take care of you, in your heart and soul that you've quit. So if you want your spirit to stay strong, you need to really get out there and do something different, and do something new, and take care of yourself, because the most important thing you've got is that spirit, and that spirit's got to remain strong through all this.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. It's like there's so much happening, obviously, but I think one of the really good things down the road that's going to come out of this is I think it's going to rattle people's cages enough where, they said 75% of people are actively disengaged from their jobs. They say that's what the Gallup poll had said. Well, shit, I mean, that might change, and maybe it goes down to 25 all of a sudden, because you're also faced with the fear of death, right? With like, people are afraid, media's made people so afraid of even, I don't know if you've walked down your street, but when someone goes like this right out of the way to the other side of the street, and this fear of death has also made us realize life is short. And I think it's this perfect thing that's brewing for people to really pursue freedom in their life, because you realize life's short, and you realize, man, I can't stay at this thing that isn't even helping me financially either.
I love that. And I'm all for that. I would love to see these people I'd love to see people all over the world become so rattled. The word I heard the other day, and I heard it from two different people within an hour of each other, was called reset. They're saying the intention, maybe all of this is coming together for a positive thing, major reset in how the world operates. Because right now there's an awful lot of greed, a lot of power hungry people out there, and they're doing things not for the right reason. So if this gets people riled up enough and makes them start questioning what's really going on, and they start looking towards their own freedom. I mean, freedom, I think we have the need we have as human beings is to be free. And that's what I'm always all about. So I would love to see a very positive outcome come out of this. And I am all on board with what you're saying, Jake.
Amen. So if this interview speaks to you, this is out of all the many, many interviews that I've conducted with a lot of amazing people lately, I'd say this one has been the most practical, and for you as a listener, able to apply this. Watch this back through, or go grab a glass of wine and sit with your friends. What's that?
Watch it with your friends on Zoom.
Yeah, and watch it and listen to it, and actually pull out a pen and pad and write down, as Kim was saying, write down what are ways I could make an extra 200 or 300 and 500 a month, and just start there and see if you can turn one of them into something long term.
I'm with you. Let's do that.
Thank you so much. I sincerely appreciate it. And we're really lucky to have people like the Rich Dad Company and you teaching people how to start to take control of their life. So I really appreciate you taking the time.
I appreciate you, Jake, and thank you for all that you're doing, and keep that message going out there strong.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much. I really sincerely appreciate it. And it was great to see you again.